You know, Dr. Swain, I look at this, and I have to say, you look at these cities, they've been run by one party with an iron fist, mayors, city councils, aldermen, for half a century at least. They're in charge of the money that comes into these communities. They're in charge of how it's distributed. That money is laundered through their bureaucracy, their nepotism, their political cronyism. They take no responsibility for what's going on in their cities. They blame other people. They blame systemic racism. Same with these one-party states, these Democrat states. And it is amazing to me because you have Nancy Pelosi this week who announced that she wants to remove 11 Confederate statues from Congress. And I'm thinking to myself, Dr. Swain, hadn't she been there like 30 years? She's been Speaker twice. She was there when the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate, and Barack Obama was president. And only now she decides to remove 11 Confederate statues. Number one, what is that going to do for the people in these communities? And number two, isn't it for her purely opportunism because she had every opportunity to remove those statues years ago?
Well, first of all, I'd like for your viewers to know that I was a Democrat up until 2009, but I always had a different perspective on the world. I've always been able to see through things, and so I've known that the Democratic Party was problematic, but I was there, and I've been able to watch them over the years, and it's clear that this whole movement to tear down monuments, I believe it's really focused on dividing the country even further, because the monuments are part of our history. If we can't learn from our history, then we're in trouble. And the whole situation is problematic because with the monuments, this is something that there are monuments on all sides. If we start tearing down the monuments, what happens tomorrow when the leaders that we are celebrating today, when those people fall out of favor? It's the wrong path for our nation. It's divisive, it's opportunism, and it's just meant to stir up people that are traditionalists, people that love America, people that are patriotic.
I think you're right. The notion that we're going to now tear down all the Confederate statues because Americans worship these generals. Americans don't worship these generals. Americans mostly despise these generals or don't even know who the hell they are. And the fact is, you're going to start pulling down monuments. What comes next? Any of the founding fathers who owned slaves and released slaves, what comes next? Books. We already know movies are being affected. Television shows are being pulled off the air. We have this kind of bizarre purging going on. This cleaning up of history going on when, in fact, we actually need to know all these things as we go into the future, correct?
It's far more important to look at the full picture and not to judge the past by the political correct lens that we use today.
Yeah, because if we judge the past by the political lens of today, as you point out, then we have a lot of questions to ask of the left and the Democrat Party, don't we? For instance,
yes.
How could you have voted for Robert Byrd to be the Democrat Party majority leader in the United States Senate when he had been an avowed Klansman several decades before? That seems to me to be a rational question. Or how could Joe Biden have worked with out-of-the-closet segregationists in the 1970s on various crime bills and other issues if we're supposed to cleanse history? Are we supposed to ignore that too? Or may I say this to you, Professor? The Democrat Party, if we're going to purge society of all vestiges of slavery and segregation and racism, was it not the Democrat Party that led the Confederacy? Was it not the Democrat Party that gave birth to the Klan? Was it not the Democrat Party that throughout 100 years after the Civil War led the effort on segregation and Jim Crow and poll taxes and literacy tests? I understand the Democrat Party has done some good things, but if it's in our DNA and we are systemically racist and we're pulling down statues and we're burning books and we're removing TV shows, why don't we purge the Democrat Party? Just a rhetorical point to you, Professor.
I agree, and the Democratic Party also fought against the anti-lynching laws. And if you look at the 1960s, the Democrats have been manipulating black people for a long time, and they pay off the leaders. They pick certain ones in the black community, they pay them off, and nothing good trickles down to the masses. The Democratic Party has stood in the way of black progress. It's standing in the way right now. And they are using black people to advance a radical agenda that I believe will be destructive to our nation, that it will hurt all of us, and it's hurting us right now.
And you know, when I look at relatively recent history, I look at 1964, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was actually quite crucial. You look at the breakdown of the votes. In the House of Representatives, 61% of Democrats voted for it, 80% of Republicans voted for it. In the Senate, where it was filibustered, the Democrats, 69% of Democrats wound up voting for it, 82% of Republicans wound up voting for it. And yet, the Democrat Party today claims to take the lead in dealing with what it calls systemic racism in society, systemic racism in police departments, that the Democrat Party is going to advance equality. You have iconic figures in our culture, Oprah Winfrey, LeBron James. You have the commissioner of the NFL, pretty much. These are all Democrats, all promoting the Democrat Party. Let me circle back. So is this, in many respects, about power and not so much about civil rights?
It's absolutely about power. And if you go to the Black Lives Matter website and you click on the link to donate, that money is going to Democratic candidates. It's not really advancing the cause of black people. And I think that it's very problematic that the true statement, the slogan that Black Lives Matter, in the same way that all lives matter, that because the slogan Black Lives Matter is a true statement, people that want to help blacks and they're white, they're being shamed, they feel like the only way they can show support is to donate money or to acquiesce or get down on their knees before black people. And that's not going to benefit the black community, and this whole move to defund the police, I mean, that's ludicrous. That will hurt black people more than any other group.
All right, thank you.